Hello and welcome to our presentation about extending Kubernetes with AI capabilities. My name is Gustav Rasmussen and I'm joined by my colleague Marius Tanawa. He is our senior platform engineer and I'm tech leader of our containerization team at Novo Nordisk Research and Development. We'll begin with a quick look at the agenda. I will introduce you to the company and how AI is relevant for us, then dive a bit into our technical foundation of container images and some data perspectives. Then I will hand over to Marius, who will tell you more about Gefion, the new exciting AI supercomputer based in Denmark that's currently ranked the 21st in the world based on the Global 500 ranking. Marius will tell you about user journeys, challenges we encountered, and solutions we came up with. And then we'll round off taking a quick look into the future and some questions at the end. So who are we and how can we benefit from AI? We are a large pharmaceutical company that specializes in treating diabetes and obesity, but also other therapy areas such as non-alcoholic fatty liver, chronic kidney disease, cardiovascular disease, and some brain disorders, Parkinson and Alzheimer. We also treat some more rare endocrine and bleeding disorders such as hemophilia. And as IT professionals, we are then building the technological platforms to enable our researchers to innovate and improve on these treatments. We have a global organization with expertise and knowledge across the entire pharma value chain. Several of our sites operate as transformational research units, being semi-autonomous in relation to the global R&D organization. This allows them to make data-driven decisions quickly and focus their efforts on research. Data is growing rapidly globally at an exponential pace. It's shown here annually in zettabytes, way too much for any humans to go through. Luckily, AI is very capable of scanning massive amounts of data, and it's starting to overtake the best human performance across a number of areas such as image recognition, language understanding, and reading comprehension, and more are being added to the list. So in fact, it's a must-win battle for us to efficiently adopt and scale out AI to the entire company. And AI, of course, exists on a spectrum from very commonly available or citizen AI, things like ChatGPT or Copilot that we all love working with daily for text summarization, code generation, and much more. Other end of the spectrum, however, in research, we have very heterogeneous data, and due to this very varying nature of the data, we often need much more bespoke or custom AI models. That can be knowledge graphs, it can be things like AlphaFold, where based on an input sequence of amino acids, we can predict the three-dimensional structure of a protein. And then there are things in between, such as forecasting models or chatbots. And each of the steps in the spectrum comes with its own unique challenges in terms of hosting, adding connectivity, compute, data, etc. We can apply AI through our entire value chain, from how we best communicate with doctors or other healthcare professionals, to how we predict and prevent stockouts through mixed marketing or sales uplift models. We can use image recognition models in manufacturing to detect broken vials and pull out these defective vials early in the process, or in development to optimize clinical trials. However, some of the most exciting use cases can be found within the discovery phase. Generative AI can scan enormous amounts of potential targets, finding leads with just the right attributes, producing a better qualified sample of leads for preclinical and clinical development. How do we then get there to scaled AI? We are working with this equation where we backtrack from the business value we want to obtain. We are starting from a foundation of fair data, so data that is findable, accessible, interoperable, and reproducible. Then we sit together with people with the right mindset that they are willing to adopt AI in their daily way of working, these cross-functional teams. We work with them typically in shorter 2-week hackathons or rapid iteration sprints and deliver for them the state-of-the-art infrastructure to scale out AI. Next, we will talk about container images because they are a little bit special when it comes to ML, training, and inference, as they can often be quite large and sometimes contain data as well. ML images can be really large, 30 gigabytes or even much more, and that poses a challenge due to latency. So our first step we take is often to try to slim down the size of the image. However, we are often still left with really large images. On top of that, there are several steps in the containerized application deployment process, from pod creation to node selection, to then checking if an image is already available or it would otherwise need to be pulled. And all of these steps comes with their own latency and overhead. So our solution to that is to use Harbor as a proxy and cache, sitting side by side with our compute, so right next to the Gefion cluster, and integrated with JFrog Artifactory SaaS solution. That fits with our corporate strategy of being software as a service first, and if that's not immediately available, we build our own solution in cloud, otherwise on-premise. To get anything meaningful out of your models after they are trained, you need to, of course, train them on high quality and correct data. And while you can get your data to say pretty much anything you want, that can, of course, lead to some really bizarre outcomes. This is an early version of Google's Gemini model. It was trained on pretty poor data coming from a lot of Reddit posts, and when probed for what's the best pizza topping, it would suggest glue, as that gives your pizza a nice texture. We, of course, want to avoid that and ensure we have the right correctness and quality on top of just the fair data principles. Similarly important data aspect is that notion of data gravity coined by Dave McCrory back when he was at VMware around 2010. He's now CEO of Digital Realty. That's the data center company that's hosting Gefion. He introduced this concept of data gravity similar to regular gravity. It has this intrinsic pool of other related data application services. And we want to allow for that because it can greatly simplify security aspects and boost performance as well. Some of you might recognize this formula as similar in shape to Newtonian gravity. I'm a nerdy physicist, so I enjoy equations like that. But how does it actually look globally where we want to make the data available for all of our users? Well, we're introducing this 3-tier data strategy. It's based on the data usage frequency. So on top, we have a hot tier. That's for data that needs to be immediately available. There we are using Veka storage. We then have a warm tier for frequently accessed data. There we'll go with Cumulus. That data will have a little bit of redundancy to it, and it will have a slightly smaller data gravity pool than the hot tier. Finally, there's a cold tier for historical compliance data we just need to keep. There we'll have an archival solution, and that, of course, doesn't need to be accessed that frequently. It has the lowest data gravity pool, and it can be fewer, more centralized locations. Here we'll hand over to Marius, telling you more about user journeys and related.
Thank you, Gustav. So right now we're reaching the middle of this presentation. So now we have at least 2 major information. The first one is of course why AI is important for Novo Nordisk, about all this data getting more and more, and we need the tools to process them better. And the second one is the technical foundation that we are also having. But you're going to tell me, what about the journey? What about the users, sorry? Who are they? Who are our users? This is exactly what we're going to cover now. So I would like you to join me, and this is Ida. She's a researcher at Novo Nordisk. She's looking for the perfect AI platform where she can enable AI to empower drug discovery, right? So she breathes science, she eats chemistry, and then she drinks machine learning, right? Okay. So how does it look like? So Ida is looking for a platform where she can authenticate in a compliant way, right? Use a favorite tool that is out there. It can be Jupyter Notebook, for instance. Train or deploy large language model based on specific data sets. Track the experiment, of course, and then monitor the execution on real time. When you take that kind of problematic and you scale it on hundreds of users, some key features of the platforms, some key feature of the platform becomes very critical, right? So what if the platform can seamlessly display hardware and then provide smart resource allocation, help her actually in her workflow. But you're going to think about that. Ida she is a researcher, so we have been talking about resource hardware, scheduling and stuff. It sounds like something that she doesn't know. So our main focus is contribute to drug discovery. And she cannot be a DevOps or platform engineer. It just doesn't work. It ends up being something cute, right? But it doesn't work very well. So, but you might ask if she's in the right path, but she definitely is, because nowadays we have tools for that. We have tools to make sure that she still found the best tools to work with, integrated all together. And she can nowadays hope for self-service and innovate faster, right? And that can be Domino, MLflow, etc. Now that you have an understanding of the journey of Ida, let's go together and see how we can help her with infrastructure. Have anyone in this room heard about Giffion? Maybe raise the hand, okay? Not too much, good. Well, Giffion is sitting in Denmark, as Gustav said, is the 21st largest supercomputer in the world, in the second happiest country in the world. So, yeah, maybe there's some correlation. Maybe at some point they wanted to process all of that happy thoughts. But Giffion is basically a DGX superpod. DGX stands for Deep GPU Accelerated. It's basically a supercomputer meant for AI at scale. It has almost 200 of H100 nodes. And that's, each of them has like 8 core of GPUs, almost 700 of memory, random access memory, and all interconnected with Infinity Band Quantum 2, which we're going to cover later on. So in Novo Nordisk, because Giffion is being built by DCAI, Danish Center of AI Innovation, with the Novo Nordisk Foundation, our immediate objective in Novo Nordisk is to build an inference cluster sitting close to that hardware. And we can see that we're going to have inference workloads sitting on the top, and as AI is becoming more and more famous with new trends and so on, they cannot just wait to have access to those GPUs, right? But as you can see that there's already a gap. So it's simply too far. They won't go there and plug the computer to Giffion and expect to have the workload running. So before we get into how we solve that proximity problem, let's dive a bit more into the specificity of Giffion. Why does it exist? Why this hardware? And actually, you heard about H100, H200. H stands for Hopper, not hell. Hopper architecture. Fun fact about NVIDIA, they like to name their infrastructure after scientists. You know, one of these, we use Nordic mythologies. I don't know if you heard about Bifrost at the Observability Con last year. It's one of them, Handel. I mean, the team might be here. Well, anyway, the Hopper architecture comes with 3 major features. The first one is confidential compute. Second one is multi-instance GPU, very good for inference. And the last one is scalable interconnect, very good for training. And we're just going to focus today on the last 2 ones. In that note, we try to simplify the scalable interconnect into something that you might understand. So let's take this example, this analogy, that we have 2 teams, one sitting here in UK, the other one sitting in France. And because they are very good at finding, I mean, basically what I want to say is that these teams are very good at finding new molecules, and they have to start by processing data. And in order to make sure, because they have to collaborate together, but the bummer is that there's a coordinator sitting somewhere in only accept pigeon protocol. That guy is a old school guy, right? So here you can see that no matter how good they are at being scientists or researchers, it already represents a bottleneck issue. What if they could communicate instantly? Basically, it's kind of the same thing when we're talking about GPU to GPU peering. On the legacy system, you had what was called the PCI Express, where if you have to have one GPU communicating to another one, another node, it will go through the PCI Express, etc. And that was quite limited in terms of speed. And today, thanks to NVLink, NVSwitch technology, you can achieve a tremendous amount of speed. Let's look also at the other feature, MIG, multi-instance GPU. Now, these 2 teams are sitting in Denmark. okay? Not in France, not in UK anymore. And it's not because we don't like these two countries. Maybe we just wanted them to pay taxes in Denmark, right? But anyway, they got into they got into the same building. They still have to find molecule, but this time they don't want to collaborate with each other. So each of them get their data, analyze it. But they have like these amazing labs in the same office in Denmark. And when one team books the lab, the other one cannot book the lab. But what if the lab can be fragmented in smaller chunks, in smaller partitions of smaller rooms where they can both work together based on the capacity? That's basically what the multi-instance GPU is solving. Based on any requirement of workloads, you can fragment your GPU and allocate it to a specific workload. And that's actually very good for inference. And it solved the problem that we have with time slicing, where it's more difficult to share. Right? All right, now that you understood the specifics of the Hopper architecture, let's go back to Ida. How do we help her? Well, Ida know that there's some scheduling, monitoring. She doesn't really feel happy about dealing with those. She knows that there's a tool that might help with those, but she just doesn't know how to name it. Thankfully, we know how to name it. It's called Kubernetes, right? And it's good that we talk about it now, because I think it's the 29th slide. It's been 18 minutes. And we're Kubernetes conference, I think. So, so that's exactly what we are going to do on this specific hardware, H200 nodes and CPU nodes. We're going to build a Kubernetes cluster. Gustav mentioned the criticality of having the model delivered fastly, so Arbor running as a proxy close by. And because we are a very large company and we have many different types of profiles, we need to have some kind of workload managers that we're going to cover a bit later, but not too much in details because it has been covered by professional towards this KubeCon. And of course, because we deal with NVIDIA hardware, we need to have the NVIDIA's operator, the GPU one, the networking one, you know what it is. So the importance is very important to kind of remember why we need the workload manager, because when you have to deal with a lot of HPC, high performance compute, you don't come with those critical features of scheduling in Kubernetes. So you won't have multiple queuing system. It's kind of difficult, right? So that's why I will recommend you to watch the talk from Team 2 from SketchMD 2 days ago, I think, about Slurm, explaining why it's very important to have a stronger workload manager when you do HPC. All right, so now let's go into the demo. We prepared something for you. It's been very difficult because we changed it at the very last time. There's been amazing demo so far. It's the last day. So we're not trying to wow you today. We're just trying to help Ida, you know, something very simple. So what we're going to do, we're going to have a short overview of the networking, the NVIDIA operator, sorry, the GPU one especially, deploy LLM on use GPUs, and have a little bit of the awesome platform that Ida might be seeking of. So I'll just exit, and all right, so this is what we prepare. So I'm just going to show you a bit the infrastructure. So we have few different type of node pools. This is the AKS cluster, Azure Kubernetes Service cluster. We have 2 nodes of GPU and several of CPU. And all are already called on in the cluster, so they are working, everything is ready. And now we're going to look at the specific GPU nodes. The networking operator is running on this cluster, so it automatically does what's called a node feature discovery, labeling the nodes and then identifying the hardware and such like that, and putting that at label in the nodes. Perfect. So here we have V100 nodes. Scrolling a bit down. So we're going to deploy Olama. I think you also know a bit what it is. There's been a talk about it 2 days ago also, I think. Olama is going to use these values, Helm chart values, to be deployed. We deployed a chart. I think it's already been deployed, but let's just have a new revision 6. We have this endpoint, it's working. So let's see if you have a model. I think I deployed a Llama 3. That's the case, we have the latest one. And let's see if Olama is running using GPU. We have as putting in the Helm values, one core of GPU is using that. And let's just run one question to Llama 3. That's what we did. That's what we want to do. So I'm running. I just asked a question, I want to deploy LLMs in Kubernetes using an awesome platform because we're supposed to help IDA. What are the options out there? Processors, gives me back an output, sorry. And somehow I can't scroll down, but hopefully I don't think there's any mention of the platform that we prepared for IDA, which is called Run AI. But the importance of this demo is that IDA is not a platform engineer, so kubectl access, forget about it. Node, forget about it. All this kind of stuff, forget about it. So she's looking for something more user-friendly. And then I think this is where we have this platform for her that's called Run AI. This platform has been acquired by NVIDIA, so she can authenticate like she wanted. Yep, perfect. So she see that there's 2 GPUs on the node. We can allocate some fractions to her. She can see all the workflows running. And then if she wants to also deploy an LLM, like we did, she doesn't have to go through Helm chart, whatever. She goes to what's called a workload manager, and she selects the workload. If you want to inference on LLM, she just ClickUps. Everyone loves ClickUps. It's easy. And she selects a model, and then, bim, it's deployed. Something that I would like to show you is that it emphasized what Gustav was saying earlier on about the importance of having something sitting as close to something as an artifactory solution sitting close to the hardware, because on this scheduling, I don't know if you can see it quickly, but it took like 20 minutes or more to get just the image. So if you're releasing new image all the time, you really want to wait 20 minutes all the time. So if the image is already cached on somewhere, you fetch it instantly, right? So that's also one of the technical challenges that Gustav was talking about. All right, so that ends the demo. Let's go back to the presentation. Preferred slide, perfect. All right, I have to click here, and we go. All right, so perfect, we already saw that. But of course, we are also supposed to support all the workload managers, such as, because we're working also with HPC, so with many teams. We have better ways today to not do static allocation of GPUs. I won't go into details. It's also being covered yesterday, I think, by 2 people from one from IBM and the other one from Apple, I think. Sorry, I don't remember the names, but it's fine. But where you can basically do what's dynamic resource allocation is basically the what's like a persistent volume. You claim an amount, and when it's not used, it's released, etc. All right, so that's basically how we help IDA in their journey, providing this awesome AI platform that we call Run AI for us. It might change in the future, but that's how we helped IDA. And I'll give back to Gustav, talking about the future direction in the last chapter.
Thank you so much, Marius. So let's round off with a quick look into the future. And now that the models have been trained, we need, of course, a place where we can host them and people can access them as well. So we are building this inference cluster named Asgard right next to Gefion. On top of that, we also have tools, Kubernetes cluster that hosts this nice run.ai user interface we just saw to give the users a better experience. So let's finally take a quick look at this hybrid cluster architecture where we have heterogeneous bare metal mixed nodes in the bottom, where some are more focused on GPU, while others are more oriented towards CPU compute. On top, we are hosting control plane, different system tools, amenities, controllers, and this spreads over a range of operating systems due to us getting some OSs from NVIDIA, DGX Ubuntu, and then we are using Ubuntu for our own VMs. Then when it comes to Kubernetes, this can be a combination of container runtime in kubeadmin or for a more hosted platform, something like Rancher Kubernetes Engine RKE. When we need to do development in cloud, we can of course use Azure's AKS or AWS EKS. Then on top, we host different system tools, as Marius mentions. That's things like Harbor for the images, Argo CD for GitOps, etc. Because many of our users, they are of course domain experts in their respective research fields, but they might not be as familiar with Kubernetes, so we want to make sure our clusters are as nice and easy to use for them to get started as possible. This opens up a lot of possibilities for us, either hosting large language models directly, or those we cannot host, we can add connectivity to, for example, through run.ai. We can also add connectivity to Hugging Face and a lot of other options. Then we'll also focus, of course, a lot of these specialized medicinal models that are needed in research. With that, we want to thank you and give a special thanks to our product owner, Simon. He was a huge part in helping us prepare for this talk. Thank you for that. And we are ready to take any questions if you might have some.